Well, hello, Allie, and I'm excited to be joining you for what is becoming our annual tradition, our end of year reflection conversation. So this has grown out of what is now almost a 3-year online relationship that we've had with our fortnightly check-ins, and it's been a remarkable relationship, right? We haven't met in person, but we've come so far in those 3 years.
Yeah, absolutely. We connected initially through mutual friends who thought this group of people should just meet one another, release the outcome, and what came of it was our realization that we were both birthing new creations, learning programs for the world at the same time. So we initially connected to just stay accountable and be emotional stability through that.
Which we really needed at that time. You were doing Plugged In, right? And I was doing Be Awesome Festival. So that was crazy.
Plugged In. Yep. And then there was so much support and nourishment and just like deep, safe space held that we've stayed in touch and continued to be really true wells of support for one another through this absurd, crazy-making journey of trying to carve life and work that feels really meaningful and true to who we are.
Yeah, absolutely. And I guess one of the remarkable things, is that you're in Washington, D.C. and I'm in Melbourne, and we haven't had to force this relationship, so it's had its own momentum. And I think for me, part of the reason is that this kind of path, at least in this stage in history, is still a little bit lonely, where we're carving our own journey and trying to build a business but also do work that's meaningful. So I think part of the intention of opening this conversation up for others to hear is that we make ourselves a little bit more accountable to a wider audience, but hopefully other people who are in a similar place in their life as we are in Korea can get some value out of hearing our story and where we've struggled this year and also what we've learned.
Totally. And recognizing you're not alone for feeling what you feel along the way, and that there's no need to do it alone. I think there's so much pressure to make it and figure it all out by yourself, and it's just not, in my experience, to keep your heart open to the world and truly feel supported. It's impossible to do all by yourself, and so really finding those true sources of support is so paramount to making the journey enjoyable and fun at the same time as it is effective and meaningful and of service.
Absolutely. So maybe as a way of introduction to people who don't know us, instead of saying what we do for work, I thought I could ask you and you could ask me, what has occupied most of your time in 2017? So where has most of your energy gone this year?
Awesome question. Especially as I release very traditional forms of quote unquote what I do. I've spent a lot of time this year investing in a kind of non-traditional living situation in the form of a house that I live in with some women who are dear friends and part of my community, where we travel and very much want a home base. We've been building this space, this house, not really in terms of we're renting a house that's already built, but we've been, energetically and intentionally and with aesthetic and design bringing in the space into reality. And I've also been traveling a lot and experimenting with being in different places and how that feels for me to be spending time in different places around the world and learning what is the right balance of travel in my life versus being grounded and being at home. I've been putting a lot of intention into my rituals and my practices. How do I take care of myself? How do I nourish myself? And relationship in the form of partnerships that I collaborate with, relationships in my world, my family, people I live with, my community, dating, love, all of the above. It's been a lot about relationship and for shadow and and light, the whole spectrum.
I think
it's been all the
I
things.
was just vibing when you started talking about relationships, so I think I get a sense of where this call may go as well.
Cool.
Crazy.
Yeah. How about you?
Yeah. Well, thank you. For me, I had ideas of what I was just going to say, and then the word relationship just resonated with me so much. So this year has been so much about relationships. I got married 3 months ago, and that journey has been incredible and challenging, and has required so much energy and love and openness, not only with my wife Hannah, but also with our families, with the people in our life, and just creating that experience. And then in my work, so I'd consider myself predominantly an educator, a workshop facilitator, but the real deep work has been in relationships, in the relationships with the people in my workshops, with the people who are the most vulnerable that we're trying to design positive solutions for. And then in the relationships that I've formed through partnerships, collaborators, and some of those have thrived, and some of those have run their course as well. So I've got lots to reflect on in that regard. Yeah, what a year. Okay, so first thing that comes into your mind, a theme for this year, one word, first word, what is it?
Chaos. But also the beauty and the creativity available inside of chaos.
Yeah, and what does that mean to you, chaos? What do you see in your year?
It's swirls. When I think of the word chaos, I think of swirly energy that doesn't make any logical sense from a rational perspective, and is a very felt experience. And yet one of the things I am learning that I am capable of doing is being able to release the mental need to analyze and understand necessarily, and drop into a physical space of navigating through those experiences very intuitively. My intuition gets heightened often if I can really ground myself in the present for how to navigate chaos. And especially if I let go of the mental story of oh my God, it's so chaotic, I don't understand, I actually drop into a really creative space. Some of the that's also creativity, right? It's before the breakthrough, it's messy and it's really hard, and there's a lot of resistance, and it's oh my God, and your brain is not understanding what's going on. And we could tell a lot of stories about that, or we could release and drop into the physical experience and kind of go moment to moment to moment, and go very much off of intuition, which can show the way through and reveal the creative process that isn't muddled by the mind. And I have some stories I can share later, but this has been my experience so much of this year.
Well, I'm sure you want to ask me the same question, but I feel it might be a good time to kind of dive into one of those stories at least. And, to the extent that you feel comfortable sharing, do you want to share maybe one experience of chaos, or maybe one low point this year that has really kind of stuck out for you?
Totally. This is probably the most palpable story. In the midst of our setting up this new home, there's been a lot of craziness that has transpired, and one of the things that happened was we started to have flooding in our basement when it rained really heavily in DC in the summer. And I was literally about to fly to Italy to lead a workshop, probably one of the most quote unquote prestigious workshops that I have gotten in my career, in a really unbelievable way. for the Laudato Si accelerator program that the Vatican launched. And I was like packing and trying to get ready, and our basement started flooding. And so I kind of freaked out, and I was the only one of my housemates home. So it kind of fell on me to clean everything up. And I was running around, like going to buy towels and mops, and like also totally unsure of what to do in this situation. Like, I just had never really experienced that before. And so I'm running around trying to clean up this flood and not getting ready for my trip. Finally got it all cleaned. It started flooding again, and was just like, okay, I can't. My body's starting to like freak out a little bit, and I knew I had to go on this travel. And I, the next morning was just dealing with like landlord and trying to hand off what was going on in the house to one of my roommates before getting on the plane. And like my brain was just in like crisis, how do I solve this thing mode? And then I get to the airport, and I'm like, whoa, I'm totally unprepared. I'm really rattled. I am coming out of this physical kind of frightened experience, and now I'm walking onto a plane flying to another country need to deliver this workshop that I still haven't finished my slide deck for. And so I'm on the plane, just like kind of coming down from that experience emotionally and trying to build out my slides. Arrive in Italy, have to wait 2 hours for someone to come get me, to let me into an Airbnb. I go start setting up the workshop and go get a feel for the space, but I can tell my body's exhausted, and I literally overslept my alarm the next morning, the day of the workshop, and woke up from a phone call from my partner and co-facilitator saying like, hey, where are you? The workshop starts in 10 minutes. I'm always there an hour ahead. And I was still in bed. My body was jet lagged. It was exhausted. It was emotionally stretched. And I was just like, holy shit, what did I just do?
This is my worst nightmare. Yeah.
It is like literally a facilitator's worst nightmare. And Jeff Cherry, I would need to give him a major shout out, because bless his soul, I was like, Jeff, I just woke up. I'm literally in bed right now. I'm so sorry. I will get there as soon as I can. And he was just like, okay, get here as soon as you can. Like, just blink it, show up. And, but no anger or frustration or blame on me. Just like, okay, come as you can. And I rushed to get ready as fast as I could. Took me forever to find a taxi. I mean, I'm like so much in the chaos right now. My body is like, what is happening? This never happens to you. I'm in a cab flying through the streets of Rome to go to this workshop, and I'm like having this crazy experience where I'm like, this is like a highlight moment, but it's also a low moment because I've never been this ill prepared, but I've also never been like this excited for where I was really excited about the workshop. And as I was driving there, I also had this moment where I was like, look, you can either continue to beat yourself up and be really frustrated that you did this, or you can let that go because it's not going to serve you, and you can just forgive yourself and decide to show up and be the best facilitator you know how to be. And you know how to do this. You are rock solid with this content. I've been doing it I created it. I've been just leading it for a few years. It's in my bones. I believe in what we create inside of that workshop. And I was like, you're just going to show up and be like the best person, like just so present and so there, and create an incredible space for these beautiful souls. And it just almost created more commitment for me. I walk into the co-working space, and I'm about to walk in the door, and I just like stop, take a deep breath, and I'm like, just show up, just be you. Let go of the plan and be you. And acknowledge it. I had to stand up in front of this room because it's a consciousness workshop. So I have to be like, look, I know, thank you for being flexible for me, because you just waited for me to show up, and I'm aware that that's not cool. So I am very appreciative of that. And let's like do this. Let's have a great time together. And it was the best workshop I've ever facilitated.
Wow.
Unbelievable.
I just want to cheer for you right now.
It really came from like letting go of the plan and letting go of, for me, it was for the Vatican, indirectly, I think, through this accelerator program sponsored by the Vatican. There was a part of me that was like, God was in this experience somehow. That is so unlike me. That is not how I operate. There's no way this how I am, but like the universe must have shown up in this somehow to create this experience. So I've just got to trust there's a lesson in it for me. And I'm such a freaking perfectionist that it was almost like unraveling in the best of ways to like let that go and have to be messy and imperfect and not totally like having all my ducks in a row, and still realizing that I don't need those things to do what I do well. I just have to show up. Like, I know how to do these things. I have to trust myself, believe in myself, and show up for people and create the kind of spaces that is just in my blood. That's what I do.
In your DNA. You just reminded me of one of my favorite quotes. I think Tim Ferriss shared this years ago. It came on my radar, and I just pulled it up here. It's from William James, and he says that beyond the very extreme of fatigue and distress, we may find amounts of ease and power we never dreamed ourselves to own. Sources of strength never taxed at all because we never push through the obstruction.
Yes.
It just seems in your experience there that there was this kind of almost like a level of ease that came out of the storm of those experiences,
totally.
Which is like, I don't want to have that experience myself to have that sensation, but what a beautiful gift.
Yeah, how else can we create that experience?
I know.
It is a real physicality though. There's like, you get pushed to the edge and it's like the only option is to like let go inside your body. And to me, it was also an act of surrender, of like, okay, universe, I'm just going to show up and be here. And in some ways, that to me is also how I'm a truest source of power and wisdom. And, really letting go that it isn't actually about me either. I'm just here to be of service to the growth and the evolution and the creativity and the beauty of the humans that are in that room.
Amazing. The other thing that kind of occurred to me, and man, like, thank you for sharing that, because it just gave me goosebumps in the worst possible way. Like, that is literally my worst nightmare, to turn up to a workshop late, to be deprived of my preparation time, to feel like anxiety and tension in my body. All of those things are things that I consciously try to prevent. So to have those stripped away as a workshop facilitator, I feel like it seems like such a disadvantage. So congratulations, and thanks for sharing that also. And what occurred to me was that a lot of people don't see what is going on behind the scenes for people when we show up in a space or in a group environment. And what maybe the way that, I don't know how you portrayed yourself there, but I know how confident and well you present yourself in our interactions. And I imagine as a facilitator, with all that chaos in the background, you did pull yourself together, and people saw this intuitive, enigmatic facilitator, but didn't know that your personal life was thrown into chaos in the hours preceding that. So that's just an important lesson for me to remember, especially as a workshop facilitator, that when I come into the space, I'm meeting 30 or 40 or 20 people who are showing up with the mask of their best self, but behind that is all this other stuff that may, for a lot of us, there is chaos in the background.
Yeah.
And having that sort of compassion, which, what was the name of your co-facilitator?
Jeff.
Shout out to Jeff, because
Major.
what a gift, right? To kind of make your experience okay in that, and not amplify it, not amplify the chaos.
Totally. It was like no big deal. And that was what I appreciated so much, and really wanted to thank him for, because he just went with the flow and was just like, okay. And none of this would have been possible if that wasn't the way he treated the experience. None of it at all. And what I also found so fascinating is just a learning, which I really do believe to be true, and have to remind myself because I can forget this. But when we show up authentically and vulnerably with others, we give them permission to do the same. And it's rare in my experience. I mean, I'm also blessed to be often in spaces of very heartfelt, intentional people. And I found that it's rare that I, admit a vulnerability or own up to something that I'm, seeing in myself that I'm struggling with, and that it's met with anything other than, some kindness and compassion. Mm-hmm. And when I shared with everyone, I'm so sorry I'm late. Thank you so much for your patience. I cannot believe that I did this, and I'm, getting over jet lag. Everyone was so kind to me, and it was almost like everyone was on my side too. And that evening afterwards, people were just kind of checking in, like, how are you doing? And, people, we care about each other's well-beings. And I think it's just such a symbol that we don't have to be perfect and perform perfectly in order to get that love from other people, or the kindness and compassion. And it's often more in our shared vulnerability. Then we also create space for our whole self to come in, our whole being can show up. And if I model that as a facilitator and create that space for other people in the room to be their whole selves, that's where the real magic comes in. That's where real transformation, growth, connection, bonding. Like, we don't need to hold back when we're creating safe space for one another, and we know that with discernment and, with intention, we are actually creating that space.
Absolutely. And this has kind of been one of the themes that has carried through for me this year, or this lesson. It seems like it's a paradox, but I feel like our greatest fear in life is to be seen by others, and our greatest desire in life is to be seen by others. And it's in that totally. Paradox of holding ourselves back and not wanting people to see the chaos that sits below the surface, but then having that seen by others and fully accepted unconditionally is like as good as it gets, right? That's where we find our commonality and our shared humanity.
Totally. That's when you're, we talk about like connectedness and feeling one. Like, that's when you feel that, when you feel like you can be truly you, no holds barred, and that's met with love and respect and kindness, and other people's showing up as their full selves, offering what's true for them, being vulnerable and real. And like, that is incredible. That level of connection feels like anything's possible in those spaces.
Amazing. Wow. Well, would you like to hear?
Yeah, so that was a diatribe about
no, so good.
My story.
I think that, for me as well, I could just see the parallels in my year as well. And if I think the one word that's just kept coming up for me as a theme for this year, and I've been doing a bit of reflection around my personal values, looking forward as well. And the word is love. And that might have something to do with getting married this year as well. But it's that's not to say that my year has been full with sunshine and lollipops. It's really been just the intention around pursuing love in spite of fear, difference, challenges. And I'm thinking about there's been a handful of fierce conversations that I've had with people close to me in my life, in my personal life, but also in my work. And I think probably I can speak probably generally around some of them, and maybe the one that I'll share is the journey in getting married this year has been really it's been challenging, particularly because my wife and I have grown up in very different environments and from very different backgrounds, and in spite of that, our connection has been like immutable and just meant to be, and we felt that way when we met, and our journey has been trying to find pull the practical pieces together to make it work. And one of the really fierce conversations Hannah and I had to have was with our family leading up to the wedding, because we had our own ideas about how we would create the wedding and honour the traditions of both sides of our family, but create something that was meaningful for us. And there were fears from both sides of our family around their way of life not being respected, or how their son and daughter may be changing. And Hannah and I just had this really strong conversation with one of our sets of parents, and I felt the fear and sort of tension bubbling up in me, where I knew that I had to speak my truth to our parents really strongly, but I had to do it with love as well. And I told our parents that we love you and we respect your opinion, but all we need from you is your unconditional love. You don't have to understand our relationship. And so it was actually this, having the courage to speak my truth, but fiercely, but with love as well. And that has kind of just been my mantra in all the challenges I've faced. So I've had a very challenging relationship in my work this year, where a partnership that had been going on for a couple of years really productively changed due to a change of personnel, I should say. And so I started working closely with another person who was in charge of this company that I had been working with for 2 years, and we really struggled to find common ground. And what I found is, like, here are two very different people seeing the world completely differently, and it was a commitment to dialogue in spite of that. And that was the thing that I reminded myself of constantly, is how can I bring love to this difference, to this conflict? How can I face, I was being triggered, I felt pissed off and angry and manipulated and disrespected, and all these things that were feelings that were more about me than the other person. So that's really, in my work relationships, in my personal relationships, the theme has been, how can I bring love to all of this fear and challenge? And I think, what I've learned a lot about the natural cycle of relationships as well. So hopefully my relationship with my wife and also with our families is a very long-term relationship. And also in this business relationship, what I just sensed is plugging into the cycles of life, that everything has a natural ebb and flow. And when I stepped back and let go of all the details and trying to resolve this and that and win this and not compromise on that, when I stepped back and just put my finger on the pulse of the relationship in this work context, I just could see that it was on its way out. It had lived its natural cycle and I had to let go of it. So yeah, kind of getting to the end of the year, and now as a married man, my kind of like question has been, what can I let go of, and how can I let go of it more fully? And that's been relationships particularly, and things from
let
the past.
go of what in relationships?
Let go of this particular relationship. So all of what I had invested, I mean, this partnership yielded a lot of intellectual property and goodwill in the marketplace, and just a kind of sense of like productivity. And it's really been a case of having an abundance mindset to let go of that, to trust that something new and better will come and take its place, which it already has. So that kind of human tendency to hold on tight to things, I've really been challenged in that, and it's only been in the letting go. And for me, letting go is not like something you do once, it's waves. So I find myself just asking, how can I say goodbye to that relationship? How can I let go of those projects? How can I let go of the potential income and trust that something is going to come and take its place? And I think in this line of work as well, it's because it is so unpredictable, and we try to build in structure for financial forecasting and clients and marketing, and also I find that stuff just almost kills the soul of the work if it's overdone as well. So it's just finding this balance of really having faith and trusting that if I'm doing things from a place of integrity and in my best possible way, then I will attract what I'm meant to survive and thrive as well.
Totally. Oh my God. I so resonate with that. I don't know what our next question was, because maybe this will weave into that.
Well, I think we're getting kind of close to our wrapping up. So
maybe we can pull some conclusion together
a little bit. And I think, two really epic years for both of us, and a lot to reflect on in the next couple of weeks before the end of the year as well for me.
Yeah, and maybe one thing we could do to kind of bring this through would be, because I was really relating to a lot of what you were sharing, and I think there's kind of a key learning and takeaway that I'm having from the year, and then looking ahead to the next year, how I want to hold that for 2018. So maybe I can share that and then pose the same question to you.
That sounds wonderful. Yeah, great idea.
Bring that through. The letting go is so powerful. And for me, and like just the really like being in integrity to yourself and to the people you really care, to the relationships that are true. And for me also, like, I'm always thinking about being in integrity to my relationship with the universe and my spirituality and my own spiritual practice. And it really, I think the biggest learning I had was learning to practice, like really walking the line of practicing what I preach in all of the moments that were really trying and really challenging. And if there was any one thing that got me through, it was that. It was really like dropping everything else and trying to stay in true alignment to what I try to talk about. And that's often like love and respect, learning and growth, and doing the work or the healing that is important and necessary for me to do my work in as true a place as possible. And that often involves like forgiving myself and just trying to love myself as unconditionally as possible, and then trying to bring that through to other relationships, to the relationships in my life. And also, we are human and we're gonna F up. And I've done that a lot this year. I've seen so much shadow in myself. I've seen a lot of moments where I'm like, what am I doing? why am I acting like this? And the practice is in letting that go and choosing to forgive and choosing to nourish yourself and other people. It goes both ways. So that practicing, it's like practice what you, like for me, it's like, okay, how do I seek as often as I can to come back to practicing what I talk about as much as I can, and recognizing I am going to be imperfect. Like, I'm just owning my imperfection, and that my relationship to perfection is really a taught one, and there's trauma, and I'm still healing around a lot of things. I almost wish I could name perfectionism as like a legit trauma and disease that I struggle from, because it feels that way. Yeah. And I still have lifelong learning in that vein and regard. And I'm also doing great. There's so much that is also working in the midst of all of it. And I think ahead to 2018, and I'm thinking about really integrating. For me, the theme of like integration is really powerful. Integrating what I've been learning about myself this year and all the practices I've been really realizing are so foundational to me feeling good, being, my most authentic self, and letting go of the need to show up 100% all together all the time. Like, I'm gonna just be okay that life is a little messy, and that I'm probably gonna struggle to do that. It's very hard for me.
But you've had some great practice this year.
Yeah, exactly, totally.
Yeah.
So like just continuing to practice that and integrate it and stay true to that.
It's funny because the one word that kept emerging when you were sharing intentions for next year was integrity, and it's so funny that integrity and integration they're related. So that intention for you to live the values, especially in times where it's hardest. Like, we can all when we feel great and when the conditions are perfect, it's easy to kind of walk our talk and live according to our values. But it's in the times when we're under pressure and we're challenged that that really matter. And it's actually, through failing or through kind of stepping out of integrity that we learn and we grow. So I just want to thank you so much, because just the little bit that you've shared about your year in this conversation for others, I think was incredibly courageous. But I've also had the privilege, I guess, to tag team and check in with you over the year. And the beauty of having this relationship for nearly 3 years now, with a critical distance, we're not in each other's lives all the time. We haven't met in person yet, which we're going to try and fix that in the next year or so.
Please.
But, I've seen the ebb and flow of your work and your life as well. So as a kind of critical friend, I can say with all objective honesty that this has been a cycle that will change, and I'll see you in another couple of months, just where everything is lining up, and it tells me a lot about the cycle of life, and there's a way to kind of live in tune with those seasons without fighting against them. So thanks for teaching me that again this year, and just for bringing your whole self to our conversations, Allie.
That's such a gift. Thank you for mirroring that, because when you're in your own experience, it's those humans, wonderful souls like you, who help me see through and past the immediacy of what I'm going through. And I just wouldn't have been able truly this year, because I got so stretched and it got hard, without people like you, and specifically the relationship that we have with this much honesty and just vulnerability and being like real. I wouldn't have been able to like keep staying in it, I think, without the help of seeing beyond it too. So I really appreciate that.
So our one recommendation for anyone who's listening, who's in the line of work or just struggling with similar feelings that we have faced this year, get yourself a friend tour.
Yes.
reach out, find someone who's on this ride with you in parallel, and it can be so valuable. So we highly recommend it.
Absolutely. It's life-saving.
Totally.
Completely. So how about you for wrapping your year and
for
next
wrapping
year?
the year up, I think just on that relationship topic, my greatest lesson has been one of my mentors said to me a long time ago, actually, if you want more peace in your life, let go of judgment. And so there was this mantra that I adopted that said, make nothing wrong. And it's such a hard mantra to live by, but in the difficult relationships that I've faced this year, where I've found the peace has been accepting that where, one person isn't wrong, I'm not wrong, they're not wrong, we're just incompatible. And that's okay. And I've learned a lot through that incompatibility. I also don't have to suffer needlessly. So if I don't have to put myself into relationships where there's so much incompatibility that I'm constantly triggered and feeling frustration.
Totally.
So my intention for next year and already this year, like as I said, in the letting go, I've attracted new relationships that I'm very excited about. I'm just about to co-facilitate a workshop with a collaborator in Toowoomba, which will be my last workshop for the year on Thursday and Friday this week, and it's going to be so colourful and playful. This person, Danielle, brings just this whole other level of art and creativity and colour to the work that I've been doing. So already that's, and a couple of other people that I've started conversations with for next year. So my intention is to be more intentional in my relationships, to be open and upfront before entering into partnerships about our compatibility and finding common ground. But, I'm always going to learn from those difficult relationships as well. So, que sera. I'm just looking forward to I say probably feel this every year, but a little less challenge and a little more like this tightening of keeping it simple.
Yeah, please, universe.
Yeah, but really what I'm excited about for the year ahead is the possibilities of creating new things with new people with the intentionality that I've learnt through the difficult relationships of 2017. So thank you to the people who have challenged me and the difficult relationships. And I wish all of us the best for the year ahead.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And all we can do is learn and use that learning moving forward.
Absolutely.
So it's
the
best way to prepare.
Congratulations on making it to the end of the year. Congratulations, everyone. If you've made it this far, you have achieved something immense. I know we're all just feeling like exhausted and over it, which is completely natural. And so, I just kind of wish you, Allie, and anyone else who's listening, a period of peace, relaxation, love, connection, all the good things that can come at this time of year. And just an opportunity to celebrate your life and yourself and enter the new year energized and full of energy and passion.
Totally. Sending so much nourishment and rejuvenation that's possible with some real rest and connection with both ourselves and with the people we love throughout this time, and ready to begin a new cycle soon.
Yeah, awesome. Lots of love, my friend, and see you in 2018.
Sounds good. Bye.
Bye.